Welcome all of you of today's international program organized by Dhaka Branch Council of the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Bangladesh. Respected participants, fellow and associate members, we are very delighted today to have our chief guest, Dr. Ahmed Kaikowas, sir, the Principal Secretary to the Honorable Prime Ministers of Bangladesh. We are very delighted for the presence of the SARS. And today's resource person is a globally reputed climate expert and very impactful professor, researcher, and scholar. Bangabandhu Chair Professors, Dr. Joyce Roy is also present with her. We are also delighted that our iconic CMA professionals, AKM Delwar Hossain FCMA, is a respected president of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, is also present here. And our presidents, respected Abu Bakr Siddiqui FCMA is also in here. So now we are going to start our program with the speech of our presidents, Abu Bakr Siddiqui FCMA. Sir, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Ahmed Kaikowas, Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh. Honorable Resource Person, today's paper presenter, Bangabandhu Chair, Professor Dr. Joyce Rai, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. A special guest, Mr. AKM Delwar Hossain FCMA, President of South Asian Federation of Accountants. Vice Chairman of the Dhaka Branch Council and Program Coordinator, Dr. Syed Abdullah Al-Mamun, FCMA. Secretary of the Dhaka Branch Council, Muhammad Nazrul Islam, FCMA, and Treasurer of the Dhaka Branch Council, Abdul Mannan. Members of the Institute connected through virtually. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to you all. First of all, I would express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Ahmed Kaikowas, Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister and People's Republic of Bangladesh, who have joined with us as chief guest. We feel so honored to have you among us, sir. Sir, we all know that you are a very busy personality. Within your busy schedule, you have accepted our invitation without hesitation, which reflects your love and affection for the CMA profession. Sir, we remain indebted to you. Our today's webinar enriched a lot by your kind presence. Thank you, sir. Who's a special guest, Mr. AKM Delwar Hossain FCMA, 2 times President of the Institute of Management Accountants of Bangladesh and present Council member of ICMAB, and incumbent President of South Asian Federation of Accountants. Thank you, Mr. Safra President, for your presence here. Today's paper presenter, Bangabandhu Chair, Professor Dr. Joyce Rai from Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. I also welcome her and indebted to her for sparing time for us. Dear guests, for your kind information, I would like to share some general information of the ICMAB on this August occasion. The Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Bangladesh is the national body of the Professional Cost and Management Accountants of Bangladesh, established with the prime objective of promoting and regulating the cost and management accounting profession in the country. The institute offers education and training to the students interested to pursue career in this field and provides a highly recognized CMA degree on fulfillment of required qualification. The institute undertakes research in relevant field and is the sole authority to issue practicing license to its members. ICMAB is a statutory organization constituted by the Cost and Management Accountants Act 2018. It is a member of leading regional and global accounting bodies, including International Federation of Accountants, Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, and Regional Professional Accounting Forum South Asian Federation of Accountants. Institute's vision is to help Bangladesh become an industrialized nation by promoting and regulating cost and management accounting profession to enhance economic competitiveness and quality of life. Institute's mission is to develop, equip, and promote cost and management accounting profession by maintaining a highest professional standard of its members in order to enable them to provide better service to the society. The institute is presently being governed by a council consists of 16 fellow members of ICMAB, including one regional representative elected by the members of the institute, and 5 nominees from the different ministries of government of Bangladesh, as prescribed in the Cost and Management Accountants Act 2018. Dear professionals, today's topic, 21st century economic climate, energy and social transformations, Bangladesh perspective, is a really timely topic as well as burning issue. The economic impact of climate change are unprecedentedly large, complex, and uncertain. Very little estimates of the total damage cost of climate change have been published. These estimates show that climate change initially improved economic welfare. Global average impacts would be comparable to the welfare loss of a few % of income, but substantially higher in poor and developing countries like Bangladesh. The uncertainty about the social cost of carbon is large. For a standard discount rate, the expected value is much lower than the price of carbon in the European Union, but much higher than the price of carbon elsewhere. So it is really a challenge for the economy of a developing country such as Bangladesh. One of the components of climate change is increasing carbon. There are also floods, tidal surges, river erosion. We are becoming enemies of nature in order to develop ourselves by changing the natural process of the nature. This, of course, will have a negative impact on our economy. We have to try to develop by using nature, not by going against nature. Human is also a part of the nature. So if man tries to change nature, it will be dangerous for his own existence. We have to save the climate of Bangladesh to protect the economy too. For this need to plant trees to reduce carbon emission. The industries and factories have to come forward in this regard. There are strong links and interactions between energy and other sectors in socio-economic development. Public policies addressing current challenges thus need to take a global cross-sectoral view. Before conclude, I would like to thank again to our chief guest of this webinar. Sir, we really need your support and guide for the development of our CMA profession. Besides that, we all the professionals assuring you of assistance for any professional needs as and when required. Sir, our professionals are ready to make contribution to the economic development of the country. ICMB is an organization dedicated to produce skilled professional accountants. Therefore, we request you to provide opportunities in potential fields which enables our members' engagement in various fields. At the end, I would like to thank Dhaka Branch Council of ICMAB. During the whole year, DBC has tried to organize various knowledge-based and time-demanded programs. Amid this pandemic, their relentless effort should be admired and applauded. I believe today's topic also help our participants who are connected virtually. Their initiatives also are in line with our vision, our ICMB as well as its members' betterment. Hopefully, they will maintain this continuity. Thanks DBC for hosting such a webinar with a great excellent title. Thanks everyone for joining with us. Wishing great success of this program. Hope Bangladesh will achieve economic independence with bless of Almighty by utilizing our nature. Thank all of you. Stay safe.
Thank you, and respected presidents of the ICMAB. Yes, in line with your speech, the nutshell is that as a national statutory professional institution, ICMAB is very focused to build high quality CMA professionals to substantiate the economic development of the current leadership to make the Bangladesh as a developed nation, as well as a national institution. It always would like to be the part of the policy making and the policy support of the nation as well. So in that perspectives, ICMA will always create a platform of the knowledge-based discussion, thought-provoking ideas, as well as the policy support issues. So in that line, we are very honored to have two scholars. In fact, one is our respected chief guest, Dr. Ahmed Kaikwas sir, as well as today's resource person. It's a globally reputed, very impactful resource persons. There is Dr. Joyashree Roy, Bangabandhu Chair Professor of the AIT. May I request our today's resource person at this moment to deliver her speech. Madam, please, this is like your time.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate your effort. And I also appreciate for inviting me to speak on this occasion. And I'm really thankful to the Principal Secretary, Kaikwas Sab, because I met him in 2018 briefly, but it's also nice. I mean, it's my pleasure to meet you again. And I know how you are dedicated to the cause. So I'm really thankful that you were also present. And I'm really thankful that professional body like ICMAB has taken up this responsibility of understanding what are going to be the new challenges for the accounting and the, I mean, even not only economic accounting, but also how to integrate it with the environmental management accounting, because this we have been talking internationally for a very long time. So I'm really, really happy to get this invitation, and I never said no to this. Let me share my screen so that I can share with you my presentation. Just give me a minute. And what I will do is that, okay. Yeah, hopefully you all can see my screen. Yeah. So what I want to share with you is that I feel that it is important for us to discuss about the 21st century economy from Bangladesh perspective, because countries like Bangladesh are going to improve their human well-being in this century, but in a very different context, which is climate constrained context. And so it is important to understand how this social transformation can happen in these countries and what are the opportunities. We need to understand that in this century, the state of the climate system will actually determine the economic outcome, whether nationally or globally. And this climate change is an unprecedented challenge to humanity because never before economic development was thought of within a climate constrained world. So economic development model that each country will be making choice for in this century will also determine the state of the climate system. So it is both way interdependence. And by now we know from the IPCC report that human activities have caused approximately 1.1 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature since the pre-industrial level. And with this 1.1 degrees Celsius rise, we are already seeing the consequences for people, nature, and the livelihood. We also know now more with confidence that what are the different systems on which the human well-being depends and livelihood and resources from which we get, how they are going to be impacted. And if you look into all these, if I just start from heat-related morbidity and mortality, then crop yield, tourism, the riverine flood, coastal flooding, whatever we just take, right? The small scale latitude fisheries and then mangroves, all these are relevant very much for Bangladesh because people's income, well-being are all related to these, given that it's a riverine country and also coastal country. So what it matters is that especially for Bangladesh, every bit of warming will matter and every year will matter, and whatever choice globally and nationally we make will also determine what will happen, what will be the economic outcome and well-being outcome of Bangladesh. Now, interestingly, what we need to understand also is that it's now very well understood that if we look into the total emission and then what is driving this emission, the IPCC report, we clearly show that both population growth and the GDP growth, the national income growth, both are driving emissions, but it is true that it's the income growth which is driving it more compared to the population growth. So we know that it's important to understand that as income grows, as the countries become richer, they will be emitting more. And so for the fast growing developing countries, we are defining fast growing developing countries as those whose GDP growth rate is between 7 to 10%. So the question is how to grow differently, because as I said already that there are risks to climate change. So how can risk managed development process can be? So we did a study in while here in as Bangabandhu Chair in Asian Institute of Technology with the Bangabandhu researcher from Petro Bangla who has been working with me here, Hassan Mahmood. So what we saw is that very interestingly, if we look into the same fast growing phase of China, Malaysia, Singapore, and South Korea, very interestingly, they depended mostly on coal. The black is coal, the red is oil, and the blue is gas. So all these countries dependent mostly on cheap coal and cheap oil, and Malaysia somewhat on gas for during their fast growing phase, because they had different fast growing phases, and that happened in the last century mostly. And so they depended mostly on the coal and the fossil fuel. But the question is that given the changes now happening, the Bangladesh cannot replicate this energy mix. And also the whole market economy has also changed globally. if we look at compare the price per unit of the different levelized cost of energy for different sources, then we now know that renewable energy are much cheaper compared to the fossil fuel energy. And so the market situation is also inviting for more cleaner fuel. So the energy mix that we saw for the countries which developed fast in the last century cannot be replicated by these. It doesn't make sense, doesn't make market sense for the developing country of this century. Now, another thing which I would like to say is that for Bangladesh, our research shows that in the supply side, if I just look at the supply side, then the clean energy portfolio is much, much bigger than the general discourse around solar and wind. Because in Bangladesh, we see there is a huge potential for hydrogen and geothermal energy, which are not in common discourse, but I'll share with you some of our research findings and which gives us more confidence on the new sources of clean energy for Bangladesh. So what we are trying to see is that in this century, compared to last century, in the last century, you know, the World Energy Council defined energy trilemma from the different point of view. And that was more on the energy security point of view. But in this century, energy trilemma, as I see it, and I have defined this, we have defined this also in our recent publication, where we are showing that say for Bangladesh, the fast depletion of natural gas definitely needs to be replaced. And there is also a discussion on this nationally, and in the global discourse also this comes up. But what really worries me is that there are two more things what we need to look into. One is, how do we make a justice in transition? Because what will happen to this vast job market, which is catered by the gas sector, because gas dependent employment is very large in Bangladesh. So if I just assume that, suppose it gets depleted in next 10 years, it's not going to be, but then I'm saying, suppose, then what happens to this skilled manpower? And the second important issue is the vast infrastructure, gas-based infrastructure, and the whole investment that has gone in. So we are talking about the stranded asset. So is this going to be a stranded asset? So to me, there are three things which really matters for Bangladesh, that what we really need to look into is that how to get close substitute to natural gas, which can provide job security to the skilled manpower, which has grown over past 3 decades, 4 decades. And then how do you make use of or repurpose the infrastructure, gas infrastructure, so that it doesn't become stranded asset? So on this pursuit, I was collaborating with some of our colleagues from Norwegian University also. And what we have come up with, this is what we are trying to say is that oil and gas sector driven hydrogen economy, how can we make a transformation? Can the oil and gas sector driven economies think of a hydrogen economy where they will use their limited resources of wind and solar, but will finally use the gas infrastructure for storing hydrogen and doing the business in terms of energy? And if you look into this, many West countries have already made a big leap forward, but these are not in the discourse of the developing countries. But I think this is high time, given the current discourse of climate constrained development model, we need to make a leapfrog to this rather than step-by-step progress. This is also published. I can share all my publication with you all so that you can share with you all, so that this becomes more visible to others. The second, what we did for Bangladesh, actually, we took the data. We had very limited data in hand, but what we did was, let me just say the one background. So the geothermal energy, what we are trying to say is that geothermal energy can be used not only for power generation, but it also provides sometimes the scope for energy demand for cooling or heating purposes. So this is something which is very important. And so we tried to look into the data, whatever is available. And based on that, we tried to see the geothermal energy's prospect. Because for geothermal energy, most interestingly, of the total cost, 70% of the cost goes for infrastructure development. So the price that I showed you in one of my earlier slides, the geothermal energy price is a little higher compared to, let me just go back and then show you that geothermal energy price is a little higher compared to solar, wind, or gas is simply because this is a global number we are quoting, but for Bangladesh, this is going to be 70% lower. You know why? Because the whole infrastructure cost is 70% of the whole geothermal energy delivery cost. So from that point of view, this is very interesting. And so we tried to look into this, and then we just took 3 wells from Koilashthila and their data, and then we tried to see that whether they can be used for, because geothermal energy can be used by using the drilling point of the abundant oil, gas oils, or even live wells. So we saw that given the, I mean, how do you use it? So for Koilashthila, at least, we found that it's not the power generation, but for cooling, this can be used. And for heat, that can be stored, and that can be used for cooling. What kind of technology might be useful? So we looked into the simulation model with this data, the live data that we got. And then from there, we found that it's not the heat pumps, but but chiller plants, absorption chiller plants can be used for cooling demand. And you know that, as I showed you earlier also, that warming will lead to heat stress, and that for heat stress, the air conditioning demand is going to go up. So looking at the energy service demand, we can plan our future energy sources also. These are very interesting things which are coming up, and through international cooperation, these can be built. So we also looked into, and we found that very interestingly, the demand side actually provides, more opportunities for the new emerging countries. And what are these demand side issues? That suppose in the energy demand sector, that means demand from transport sector, building sector, etc. So if we look into those, then we will see that if you make an intervention on those sectors, just to give an example, say energy efficiency improvement, all the equipments, if you make them energy efficient in this sector, then they can provide not only energy demand reduction, that means with the same supply, you can meet the demand and you can expand the consumer connection load, but also the sustainable development goals are much higher in the energy demand sector intervention compared to the energy supply sector intervention. And this is something which brings us to the question that is happening in the, in IPCC report. The question comes that what kind of development pathway any country need to adopt? Is it more supply oriented and delay in emission reduction, or more near-term reduction in energy use, and then just through reforestation and afforestation, you can make the balance of a net zero emission? So this part is where you do not need any carbon capture and storage, but here you need bioenergy carbon capture and storage, which simply means is that here you can reach these by combining demand side action with the supply side action. Now, in the demand side, very interestingly, if you look at the investment patterns, which are also projected, which sector are going to see the more rise in investment, then it's the energy efficiency improvement, where globally investment is going to go up in this direction. This is going to be the maximum investment. And if we see where the investment is going to go down, and which we are seeing right now, this was in our fifth assessment report of IPCC, where we showed that extraction of fossil fuel sector is going to get lesser and lesser investment, and the clean energy sector is going to get more investment. So what these new countries who are going to develop in this century, they can aim for cleaner energy, where the investment is going to be more, and the energy efficiency enhancement together. So we tried to see that globally, actually, energy efficiency has been improving a lot through technological progress. So we wanted to see what is happening in Bangladesh. Very interestingly, our research found that this is something which was a kind of surprise for us, because we did not expect this, that for Bangladesh, actually, the energy efficiency is not increasing. So that means that per GDP, energy use is more during the first development phase compared to many other countries, except for Malaysia, which was also growing inefficiently. But the reason we tried to see, and our research shows that the reasons are varied, but I'm coming to that. So what we are saying is that, so basically, we wanted to see what needs to be done for making the energy sector sustainable for Bangladesh. So we saw that the social and economic development, which has happened since 1991 to 2017, we used the all official source data, and we saw that it's the social improvement and economic improvement has happened, but the environmental dimension performance has been declining. So this is something which is important, that environmental performance can be done better. And so question is, how do you do it better? So our study again shows that which is not very something new, but what it says is that if we can increase the clean energy penetration faster, and if we can make the energy efficiency more, then this environmental dimension can also improve, which would mean that the Bangladesh to become sustainable in the energy sector, they need to focus right now on the energy efficiency and renewable energy penetration. And in the renewable energy penetration, we feel that the portfolio need to go beyond wind and solar, and we should be thinking of some leapfrog technologies through international cooperation, which can come under SDG 17. So now another thing which we found is that why energy efficiency is not improving faster, why renewable energy is not improving faster. We found that it's very important to understand that the shortage of human capacity, that means we do not have enough energy auditors. We do not have benchmarking for energy efficiency for the industries. And so we have identified many factors which can easily be resolved by interinstitutional collaboration, etc. And so that can help in building the database, which is really needed both for the demand side action and the supply side action. So it can be framed given the experiences from many other countries, and there is need for design of right incentive and local innovation so that new business model can develop. And another thing which I'm just going to share with you, some of our past studies from India, which is very interestingly, when I was looking into Bangladesh data, was that if you look at the 70s in India, 1 unit of energy use was defining 1 unit of GDP growth, right? But then from mid-80s, they have become they are diverging, which means that from then energy intensity improvement or energy efficiency improvement has been happening. And that has actually happened in this, starting from 2000 more. And that is leading to, although economic activity is growing faster, but then energy use is much less, which is helping to meet the energy demand without adding more to the supply. And so this is something which I'm just showing for India because we did this research, but then for many, many countries, this is happening, and which is possible for Bangladesh to happen. And this, if you ask me, then basically from mid-80s, in most of the universities, they started teaching energy auditing, and many professionals actually got converted to energy auditors, and they have been working with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency to make this happen. And so now there are legislations and all. So I have seen this in my eyes, and so I know that this can happen in Bangladesh also with right kind of institutional arrangement and adjustments. So we also looked into that for the newly developing countries, fast developing countries, I mean, for different sectors, how they should be developing. So the question is, say, for example, should they be in the transport sector? What should be mostly on focus so that they can reduce their emission when they are developing right now? So we have seen that if there is more public transport and if there is urban compact living and cities grow, then they can happen. And most of the developing countries are growing this way. So I expect them not to emit as much as the developed countries are doing right now. So developing countries will be doing much better because all our studies are showing that. And then we are also seeing that, say, for example, this is for building sector, what needs to be done? So energy saving. So, in almost many countries, the energy efficiency in building sector has happened because of the building code. And when I was looking into the building codes of Bangladesh, then I saw that energy saving requirements are very little. And so material efficiency and energy efficiency, they can be included in the building codes, and that can make it much more compatible with these new developmental models. And also, as I said, we wrote a new report, and where we are showing that this decade there is going to be huge investment, and there are going to be new areas of investment which the newly developing countries needs to be taking benefit of. And what are these sensitive intervention points? There also we find that the transport sector, building sector, industry sector, and energy sector, they can produce much of reduction. And if with these we add in the food waste reduction and the nature-based solution, as I said, then actually 70% of the reduction globally can be achieved. And with this report, we also could show that if, say, for example, by 2030, the percentage of renewables in the world now is 25%, but it has to grow up to 65% by 2030. So in this one decade, there will be huge investment. So where will be the investment? Investment are going to be in electrification of the energy service system, efficient appliances, and then efficiency standards, as I said, and then new service models like you have more shared accommodation, shared mobility, and new business model for electricity trading, and then the public transport system, And also, as I said, that in energy intensive industries need to be moving towards more electrification and green hydrogen and carbon removal. So in the building sector, there has to be the zero emission building infrastructure. And also we need whatever existing building stock we have, their retrofit can be done. And then that decarbonization process can also help in the whole process of building energy use reduction. So restoration of forest and coastal ecosystem is important for storing carbon, and Bangladesh has enough scope for that, but that needs more scientific approach. And so nature-based engineering solution, how that can be introduced, that really needs more research, more data, and more mapping so that this can happen. So what I wanted to say is that I always say that 2020 is a significant year because that is the year where the emission went down. So the question is, everybody asks, is there money to do this? If you ask me, then I always give this number that globally, $12 trillion is there as the COVID recovery fund. And for Paris compatible development pathway, we just need 10% of that. So this is possible if the projects are there, if countries are ready with their demands for these. So what I wanted to say is that because this is the, I'm talking to the cost and management accountants. So what I wanted to say is that basically in 21st century, we do need a different development model, which is not about only GDP growth, which we usually talk about, and GDP growth can lead us only to, that means that we are covering only this much. So the economic growth only, but environmental investment related new economic growth, we are not considering or not we are accounting for. So environmental management account is very important for all economic activities, all institutions, and how to do that. That is developing, under United Nations Convention for a very long time. Since 1993, we have been contributing to that. And so this green GDP accounting is becoming more important compared to the standard GDP accounting. So the financial accounting system is also going to expand a lot. And that has to be looked into how this can be done. And they are very much related to the sustainable development goals. And for Bangladesh, what we tried to do, we actually published two journals, two journal ones. I'll just showing this. So this is something which we, International Energy Journal, which we published 2 volumes, and which are Bangabandhu special issue. We made these, and then 70 scholars contributed their research papers. And from that, we gave a framework that what is really needed is just not the economic growth, but the human well-being. And so that disaster-related impacts are reduced, and what kind of investment is needed, and how these international framework are providing the framework. But what we found for energy system transformation, for preventing the disaster-related impact on the infrastructure also, there is need for risk-informed decision-making for Bangladesh in terms of what kind of infrastructure is built, what kind of human capital, that means training, etc., are done, what kind of governance institution are needed. So we wrote all those in that paper, and that I'm just going to show that what it means is that these are some of the just examples that 5 capital investments. So it's just not the physical capital which needs to be looked into. So we need to account for these 5 kinds of capitals: natural capital, human capital, social capital, knowledge capital, and physical capital, and how our accounting system can incorporate these. There are huge number of research which are going on, and so those needs to be adopted through your professional bodies like yours. So I mean, if you want, with AIT we can collaborate, we can do many training programs, and we can do capacity building programs. That's easy for us to do because we are doing this research already. We are informing the international bodies, so we can work with you and then we can develop this. And so what we tried to see is that in our white paper, we wrote that 10 things, 10 major things, top things, what Bangladesh can do and how they can impact the different sustainable development goals. And of those, the faster renewable energy penetration is at the top, but then what is also needed is how we can have the institutional arrangement which is inclusive. As in the very beginning of this meeting today, I was very happy when your president said that you are ready to work with the government for helping in managing these. So basically, this is what is really needed. What kind of accounting framework, what kind of energy-related database for different institutional arrangements can be done so that environmentally managed accounting can get into this, so that sustainable development can happen for Bangladesh. And so for these, all these, I'm not going in details, but then all these show that if we do all these, actually they are advancing different sustainable development goals also. So focusing on these 10 things, we can actually advance our sustainable development goal. Instead of looking at each of the sustainable development goal, we need to take a systemic approach, and this systemic approach, our research is showing that this is very much possible for Bangladesh, and this can help in this century to grow with the global goal as well as the local imperative for providing human well-being to all. And what we tried to do was we tried to develop some scenarios for Bangladesh. I'll just share very briefly what you don't have to look into all these numbers, but what we wanted to see is that we took the Vision 2041 and we took the Delta plan, and then we looked into that by 2050, starting from compared to 2019, what needs to be done? What are the alternatives which have been said in the PSMP and many other vision documents? And we tried to figure out that actually the same rate of growth can be achieved with lesser energy demand if we can include and integrate the energy efficiency and the renewable energy growth, and which is not very much different, but then which is there in the INDC itself. And if we can pursue this, then we can actually get a higher renewable energy share, and we can achieve the GDP growth rate as well, but with lesser energy supply because of energy efficiency improvement. And what it shows is that this low, we name it as low carbon sustainable development pathway, and where we are showing that the energy need, total energy supply need will be much lower than if we follow the historical path or other reference scenario paths or just PSMP path. There will be more supply needed. But then actually we do not need that much of supply. We can, from 2030 onwards, this can be much lower. And this one is showing that how much energy we need to provide decent living standard for 100% of population in Bangladesh. And then we see that this is going to be a little higher than this, because this will mean that this will meet the basic needs, but also the higher needs for different purposes like industrialization, etc. But what we wanted to say is that, to conclude, that 2020 is a significant year, and so the world has a unique opportunity to reshape the future in new directions. And these fast developing countries needs to be allowed to grow, but with right kind of leapfrog technologies and cooperation and capacity building and data management. And so with these words, I'll stop here and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your very insightful presentation. And when I was listening, I'm very emotional that the name of Bangabandhu is associated with an international journal. So we are really salute on behalf of all of us from the institution and as a citizen of Bangladesh that you put our very own and very lovable name for which we have got the Bangladesh in the international forum. And Dr. Ahmed Kaukas sir is also in there. I think he is also one of the instrumental for policy setup as well as working relentlessly. I had an opportunity to see very closely, sir, for transforming Bangladesh energy sector, particularly from the crisis of energy. Now we are in line with the sufficient of energy. And in that case, role of ICMAB, I want to highlight from your model that one of the capital you mentioned is a human capital. Out of 1,600 members, almost 10%, like around 150 members, professional members, are working in the power sector and playing very important role for ensuring the energy efficiency. And I believe that the prudent policy support will lead us to move forward, achieving for which the factors you have been identifying. And at this stage, we want to have some questions from our audience. A good number of like professionals have been in here. So may I request, like, if you raise your hand for any of your questions from audience. So any questions, any further questions from audience? So, okay, meanwhile, like if anyone raise hand.
I see one question in the chat.
Yeah.
And so there was a question that in Barpukuria, there are, electricity. So let me just give very interesting, because I saw this name, so I just wanted to tell you that when we were doing our geothermal energy and hydrogen, I'm trying to explore, but for hydrogen, I have not used the Bangladesh data yet. So what I saw is that very interestingly, Barpukuria, the coal seam provides very high temperature below this. So if we stop producing coal for several reasons, then how that can be used for geothermal, I see this as a major potential. And there are many international companies from Norway. I know I'm in contact with them. So if you need, Dr. Kaikasav is also here. So I was just thinking that, so basically we can get here some experimental sites so that we can find out how hydrogen and geothermal can both be extracted. Because what I'm just thinking is that, say for gas is a transition fuel, but then after say 10-15 years, we need to make a transition from gas. And for that, at some point of time, I said in some meeting that Petro Bangla might become Hydrogen Bangla 20 years later, so that should be our vision. And that is possible with some experimental site selection and making this happen. I can be of help anytime. Just contact me. I'll be very happy to put all these in contact and context.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this moment, may I request the respected chairman of the DBC for brief like insights about the program. Mr. Buktiar Alam, FCM. Buktiar bhai, unmute করেন.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmood, for giving me the opportunity. Respected Chief Guest, Dr. Ahmed Kaikaus, Sir, Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh, and learned resource person, Bangabandhu Chair Professor Dr. Joyasri Roy, SAFA President Mr. A.K.M. Delorsen, and President of ICM of FCMA, distinguished participants. Thank you very much for your patience hearing, and I was so many passionate was and I was just amazed that how our resource person explain everything with a example also. So I think all the participants got the their learning through this session. It's within very short time, Madam disclosed everything that the relationship between the economy, then I can say the climate, energy, and social transformation. So I believe everybody enjoyed the session, and which reflects in the chat box also that everybody was praising. So it is really a pleasure for us that two resourceful persons with us, especially our chief guest, because this is we are really proud that such a personality is with us, and of course the learned resource person. So we believe that all of our CMA members feel proud of both of you, and we wish in future also you will be with us, and I can say that really our member will be happy whenever you be here with us in future. And Madam already mentioned that whenever you need her assistance or any knowledge sharing issues, of course she will with us. So thank you, sir and Madam, both of you, for your time with Dhaka Branch Council of ICMAB. ICMAB is a professional body out of two institutions. We in the professional accountancy, CMA and CA, two professional body are there, and CMA can play a vital role in this connection, because we know the cost, how to control cost, and we know how to make decisions on various critical situation. So if the CMAs have any opportunities anywhere, I would request our chief guest to please engage our members. As Dr. Mamun already mentioned, many of our members has been working in energy sectors, especially power grid, EGCB, PGCB, DPDC. So many even in private connection also. So you can, if you give us the opportunity, of course we can play a vital role there. So thank you for your time, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, respected chairman. So now may I request the honorable chairman of the president of the SAFA, A.K.M. Delor Hussain, for his speech, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mamun. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected chief guest, sir, of today's program, Dr. Ahmed Kaikaus, the Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh, learned resource person, Dr. Joyasri Rai, Bangabandhu Chair Professor, AIT Thailand, President ICMB, DBC Chairman, my dear fellow and associate members of ICB. Assalamu alaikum and very good evening to all of you. It's an honor to speak at such a knowledge-based international program hosted by DBC. I would like to convey my special thanks to the DBC for selecting such a wonderful and timely topic, 21st century economy, climate, energy, and social transformation, Bangladesh perspective. During the last few years, DBC has demonstrated their excellence, capability, and enthusiasm in the arranging knowledge-based program to enrich its members' knowledge and competence. We all know that with the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh is transforming to a developing country, and I am confident we will be developed nation soon. ICME as a professional accountant is persistently supporting this transition through its valuable contribution in the field of cost and management accounting and corporate reporting. However, we must make sure that such development is not being achieved by sacrificing the ability of the future generation. Our activities must not affect the environment adversely in the way of transition. Moreover, in this transition process, we should not ignore the piece of social transformation. I am glad to share with you that the status of Bangladesh in terms of gender equality, family education, women empowerment, and other social indicators are highly appreciated by the global community. As the SAFA president, I would like to share a few words about SAFA. Dear guests, as you know, SAFA was established in 1984 before Shak, and is persistently working for the development of the accountancy profession in the South Asia region. It has contributed a lot to uphold the immense in the world of accountancy. SAFA is working for the improvement of transparency, accountability, and governance through its diversified activities. SAFA represents about 375,000 professional accountants, and the trend of SAFA's activities absolutely represents and in line with topics of today's discussion. Thus, I am delighted to be a part of today's program. My dear respected participants, let me share one of the background information with you. When DBC was planning this program and shared the title with me, only one name popped up in my head as the chief guest of today's program. And he is none other than our very own Dr. Ahmed Kaikaus, sir. The Principal Secretary to the Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh. You may not be aware, but all understand how busy with he is and his role in the transformation of Bangladesh. When we approached him, I was surprised by his welcoming attitude, though it was a visit with a very short notice. On that day, I understood and learned this appreciation for the institute's initiative ICME has taken so far. That also ensured me his door will be open for ICME for my future initiatives. Sir, thank you for your presence today. I, along with my colleagues, are already delighted with your presence and looking forward to learn from you deliberation. Before that, with the permission of the Honorable Chief Guest, sir, I would like to say few Bangla, because of our institute is very much grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister and your government. So I would like to Mayer Bhashay duti kotha bolte. So far, I believe today's resource person also, her name call is a Bengali. I believe it. So I would like to, I will not more time, 2, 3, 4 minutes maximum. Sir, you will be happy to know that Institute সৃষ্টি বাংলাদেশ স্বাধীনতার সাথে সাথে হতে বাধা সৃষ্টি ছিল এক গ্রুপ অফ পিপল, কিন্তু জাতির জনক বঙ্গবন্ধু শেখ মুজিবুর রহমানের নিজস্ব হস্তক্ষেপে যে ইনস্টিটিউট পাকিস্তান আমরা পাকিস্তান ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস, এটাকে উনি নাম দিয়েছেন বাংলাদেশ ইন্ডাস্ট্রিয়াল অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস। তার সুবাদে পরবর্তীতে আমরা কস্ট অ্যান্ড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট অর্ডিন্যান্স হয়। অর্ডিন্যান্স হওয়ার পরে থামেনি, এটা দীর্ঘ পরিক্রমায় 2018 সালে এই গণতান্ত্রিক সরকার মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী সরকার জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনার সরকার আমাদেরকে 18 সালে একটা আইনে পরিণত করেছে, যেটা অনেক ইনস্টিটিউট বাংলাদেশে এখন আইনে রূপান্তর হয় নাই, যেটা জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনার কারণে হয়েছে, এই গভর্নমেন্টের পেট্রোনাইজেশন হয়েছে। সেই সাথে বলতে চাই স্যার, এই ইনস্টিটিউট কি পেয়েছে বর্তমান মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনার কাছে এবং এই সরকারের কাছে আমি কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাচ্ছি ইনস্টিটিউটের মেম্বারদের পক্ষে। আপনার জ্ঞাতার্থে এই ইনস্টিটিউটের প্রতিটি সদস্য 25,000 ছাত্রছাত্রী always grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister and her government. You will be happy to know that, sir, 1994 সালে একটা কোম্পানি আইন হয়েছে, অনেক বাধা বিপত্তির পরে একটা আইনে একটা লাইন ছিল, সরকার যদি মনে করে কস্ট অডিট করাতে পারবে। এজিপ আমরা অনেক দান দরবার করে তখন হয়েছিল কোম্পানি আইনে কস্ট অডিট করার প্রভিশন রেখেছিলেন। সেই মনে করাইতে করাইতে 2001 সাল পর্যন্ত গিয়েছে, কিন্তু এই জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনা ক্ষমতা হস্তান্তর সংসদ ডিজলভ হয়েছে 96-2001-এর 13ই জুলাই 2001 সালে, আর মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী অনুমোদন দিয়েছেন 12ই জুলাই 2001 সালে। এটা একদিন আগে উনি আমাদের প্রফেশনকে এই মর্যাদা দিয়েছে। অতীতে আমাদের প্র্যাকটিস ছিল না, মানে অডিটরের মর্যাদা ছিল না, প্রফেশনাল মর্যাদা ছিল না, যেটা মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনা আমাদেরকে প্রফেশনাল প্র্যাকটিস করার অধিকার দিয়েছেন, কস্ট এন্ড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট বলার অধিকার দিয়েছেন। এমনি ছিলাম কিন্তু আমি প্র্যাকটিস ছিল না, শুধু চাকরির উপর নির্ভর ছিল। এটা মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনা এবং তৎকালীন যারা গভর্নমেন্টে ছিলেন পরম শ্রদ্ধা জানাই, যদিও মারা গেছেন পরবর্তীতে যারা ছিল সবাই আমাদেরকে সাপোর্ট দিয়েছে। তারপরে আসি স্যার, আপনি জানেন স্যার, বাংলাদেশের মানুষ সব জানেন আমাদের প্রফেশনকে কোথায় যেন ছোট করে রাখার টেন্ডেন্সি ছিল। এই ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং অ্যাক্ট, যে আপনি স্যার ক্যাবিনেটের সচিব ছিলেন, অন্যান্য সবসময় গুরুত্বপূর্ণ জায়গায় কাজ করেছেন, সেখানে দেখেছেন ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং অ্যাক্টে যাতে কস্ট এন্ড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট না থাকে সেটার জন্য অনেক গ্রুপ অফ পিপুল প্রচন্ড চেষ্টা চালিয়েছে। শ্রদ্ধা জানাচ্ছে যে আজকে আমাদের পরম শ্রদ্ধ মোহিত স্যারকে, এবং উনি উদ্যোগ নিয়ে আমাদেরকেও সেটাকে ইকুয়াল মর্যাদা দিয়েছেন। ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং অ্যাক্টে কস্ট এন্ড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট থাকবে ইনস্টিটিউটের প্রেসিডেন্ট, একই সাথে চার্টার্ড ইনস্টিটিউটের প্রেসিডেন্ট থাকবে। এই যে একটা মর্যাদা আমরা পেয়েছি, আমরা কার মাধ্যমে পেয়েছি? জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনার মাধ্যমে পেয়েছি, আওয়ামী লীগ সরকারের পেয়েছি। আমরা এই জন্য শ্রদ্ধা জানাতে চাই, যেহেতু আমরা স্বার্থ পেয়েছি, আমাদের স্বার্থ সিদ্ধি হচ্ছে, আমরা উপকার পাচ্ছি, সেই জন্য জানাতে বেড়েছে বলেই আপনি শ্রদ্ধা জানাচ্ছেন। এবং আমি বিনয়ের সঙ্গে বলবো, এই ইস্যুগুলো যদি আপনি তো সারা আমাদের প্রধানমন্ত্রীর সাথে কাজ করেন, বাংলাদেশের মুখ্য সচিব কারা হয়, আমি একটা চাকরি করেছি, একটা কর্পোরেশনের ফাইন্যান্স ডিরেক্টর ছিলাম দীর্ঘ 10 বছর, চেয়ারম্যান প্রায় 5 বছর, 4.5 বছর। আমি কিন্তু গভর্নমেন্ট আপনার মর্যাদাটা কি, মুখ্য সচিব কি স্যার চাকরির কারণে জানতে পেরেছিলাম। তাতে আজকে আমরা খুবই আনন্দিত এবং গর্বিত, আমরা সুযোগ পেয়েছি, সুযোগে এটা কাজে লাগাতে চাচ্ছি স্যার আপনার মাধ্যমে। এই প্রফেশন মানে দৃঢ়ভাবে কৃতজ্ঞ এই গভর্নমেন্টের প্রতি। আমরা অলওয়েজ আমাদের অডিটোরিয়াম জয় আমরা এটা বলে থাকি। আপনার এক্স কলিগ যে মুখ্য সমন্বয় আমাদের মহিলা ম্যাডামও আসছে, তা ওনাকেও বলেছি, আমরা এই বিষয়টা বলছি। আমরা চাচ্ছি গভর্নমেন্টের পেট্রোনাইজেশন। সেই ক্ষেত্রে আপনার হস্তক্ষেপ যেহেতু পেয়েছে, আপনার সাহায্য পাচ্ছি, আমরা মনে করি খুব শীঘ্রই আমরা তীরে পৌঁছতে পারবো। পৌঁছা মানে আমি বলবো আমাদের ব্যক্তির স্বার্থের জন্য। টেকনাফ থেকে তেঁতুলিয়ার 1600 মেম্বার, 25,000 ছাত্রছাত্রী, ব্যক্তির প্রতিষ্ঠানটা, এই প্রতিষ্ঠানটাকে আপনি যে জায়গায় আছেন আমাদেরকে ইউজ করবে, ইকুয়ালি ইউজ করবে। এবং আমি কত প্রসঙ্গ বলতে হয়, বলতে কাজে লাগানোর কথা বললে বলছে যে ইংল্যান্ডে উনি চাকরি করেছেন, অনেক বলছে, সেখানে চার্টার্ড অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টের তুলনায় কস্ট এন্ড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অত্যন্ত সমীহ দেখা হয়। আপনি স্যার অনেক যোগ্য বিজ্ঞ, অনেক পড়াশোনা আপনার আছে, একটা কিভাবে বিদ্যুৎ সচিব ছিলেন, কি করে আসছেন, সবাই বাংলাদেশের প্রতিটি মানুষ যারা সজাগ তারা আপনার অবস্থান জানে। আপনার দৃঢ়চিত্ত ব্যক্তিত্ব, সৎ নিষ্ঠাবান ব্যক্তিত্ব। আমরা চাই আপনার পেট্রোনাইজেশন, সততার সঙ্গে। আমরা কোনো বেশি কিছু যাব না। এই যে আজকে যে ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং একটা হইলো কোথায়, আজকে যেহেতু আমি সিনিয়র, বয়সে সিনিয়র, কেন 1998 সালে সাফা কনফারেন্স হয়েছিল, সেখানে মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী জননেত্রী শেখ হাসিনা সেইখানে ঘোষণা দিয়েছেন এই স্বচ্ছতা জবাবদিহিতা নিশ্চিত করার জন্য মানে ফিনান্সিয়াল রিপোর্টিং অ্যাক্ট করা দরকার, যেখানে ধাক্কাধাক্কি করে একটা সুস্থ জিনিস পাবেন। স্যার আপনি আপনার কাজ ছাড়া, আপনার হাত ছাড়া কত কিছু বাইরে না, গভর্নমেন্টের পলিসি, সেই পলিসি লেভেলে যেখানে সুযোগ পাবেন বিনয়ের সঙ্গে, এখানে প্রায় 200-250 অনেক শুনতেছে, অনেক জানতেছে, তাদের এবং 1500-1600 মেম্বারের উপকারের জন্য এবং ছাত্রছাত্রীদের উপকারের ফিউচার জেনারেশনের জন্য আপনি স্যার দয়ার দৃষ্টিতে পেট্রোনাইজেশনের দৃষ্টিতে দেখবেন। অতীতেও ইনস্টিটিউট এইটুকু আগাইছে গভর্নমেন্ট পেট্রোনাইজেশনের মাধ্যমে। আপনার কাছে আমরা এজ এ সিনিয়র আমি বলবো আপনার কাছে আমাদের আপনার ডাইরেক্ট পেট্রোনাইজেশন চাই, নির্দেশনা চাই, যেভাবে চললে আমরা আপনারা গভর্নমেন্টের সুনাম হবে সেইভাবে চলবো, কিন্তু আমাদেরকে একটু সাপোর্ট দেবেন। এই কথা বলে আমাদের জয়শ্রীরা, যিনি আমি বিশ্বাস করি বাঙালি, আমি দৃঢ়ভাবে বিশ্বাস করি। আর স্যার আমি যদি বেশি বলে থাকি ক্ষমা সুন্দর দৃষ্টি দেখবেন, আমি আমাদের কৃতজ্ঞতাটা প্রকাশ করছি। অলওয়েজ আমরা কিন্তু এই গভর্নমেন্টের দৃষ্টিভঙ্গি তুলে ধরার জন্য অডিটোরিয়াম মাছ পিপলদেরকে জেনারেট করে এই পেট্রোনাইজ আমরা গভর্নমেন্টকে কিভাবে সাপোর্ট দিতে পারি সেই আঙ্গিকে আমরা কাজ করি। স্যার বিনয়ের সঙ্গে বলবো স্যার আমাদের প্রফেশনটাকে একটু এগিয়ে নেবেন। আমরা পেয়েছি আপনার কাছে গিয়েছি, দেখেছি আপনি কিভাবে বলছেন। আমি আর কথা বাড়াবো না, অনেক সময় নিলাম। ক্ষমা সুন্দর দৃষ্টি স্যার, সম্মানিত প্রধান অতিথি স্যার এবং চিফ গেস্ট স্যার, উপস্থিত পার্টিসিপেন্ট যারা আছে ওর অ্যাড্রেস করে বক্তিয়ার বানান ব্যাপারে ভিল্লো এবং মামুন, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ ফর গিভিং দ্য অপরচুনিটি টু সে সামথিং। স্যারের কাছে ধন্যবাদ। থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you, respected SAFA presidents. Your contribution to promote ICMAB in line with the national vision is always appreciated. We also salute to you. Now, this is the precious moment for all of us to listen from today's chief guest. It will be my great privilege to just say something about our today's chief guest. He is a very unique personality in our society and in our nation. He is not only a bureaucrat, very successful civil servant, but also is a very intellectual. He is serving all of his responsibility with intellect input as well as his wisdom, for which we always feel proud. His academic background is very much rich. He is not only the graduate from Williams College, like is one of the most prestigious institution in the world, that he did his master's and the PhD from there, but also he continues his research activities and involvement. And he was also the first chairman of the Energy Research Council in Bangladesh. SAR's rich academic background, his passion to research as well as building intellect and giving intellectual input in the national development has really created him as a very unique and inspiring personality to all of us. And on behalf of the ICMAB family, this is a national institution, as our predecessor says, that we work closely with the development of the nation. Sir, we salute to all of you, especially to give your precious time today. So at this moment, we are really looking forward to listen you. And I personally is a very grateful that you personally gave me the opportunity to work in the power sector as well. So thank you, sir. And to you for your speech.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your nice words. I felt like touching my own feet with your words. Today I felt like I am somebody very special, which I never thought before. So thank you for giving me this kind of feelings. I'm respected chair, distinguished, very eminent scholar, Dr. Joyce Roy, and today's respected guests. Good evening. Good. I will try because everybody is out of place now, and especially after the presentation of Joyce Roy, I do not have the guts to say more. However, I will also raise some issues that is kind of practical. I think today's session concentrated on two issues. One, ICMA or ICMAB as a profession. The other one is the climate change and energy. So I would like to first focus on the climate change and the use of energy. Dr. Roy has pointed out very good points, which is here. However, I'm session is actually my latest sort of like half. I cannot claim myself as an expert. Is political economy, economics. So we always see alternatives, and I'm a great fan of John Maynard Keynes. He had a great, quote. Let me quote him that in the long run, I mean, we always say long run and short run. So according to him, in the long run, all we are dead. So let us worry about short run. So I'm also sort of, well, in the long run, obviously we have to think about our future, but we have also need to think about our present. So renewable energy is probably the future, but at present we have some problems which we need to understand. We have done, I think, many of the activities are kind of like not noticed by the academia. We have been working on renewable energy, and we have created a fund of 1,000 crore with JICA to promote efficiency, and which is already exhausted. Through which we are giving loans with a preferable or preferential interest rate or lower interest rate. And then we have, I think, trained many people on energy auditing. Which we have already started. And through SEDA, there is a report on making buildings energy efficient. So all these things have all been done. However, if you ask me what is the implementation status, I cannot claim that it's very high. So it is the problem of a growing or emerging economy, because we tend not to follow the rules in the beginning. And that has happened everywhere in the world. And there is always a way that you, get away with either you're bribing someone, or, you are not listening, or you have the ability to ignore. So these sort of like social crisis we are also facing, which is a bit natural, but I don't think that we have to we have to actually accept it. So the government is trying to enforce. So what my point is that we have been working in this field. Now, coming to the renewable energy, as of now, the choices are quite limited for Bangladesh. Number one, solar. Solar, you see, solar irradiance in Bangladesh is low. And the land is very precious for us, because 170 million people live here. In addition to that, because of urbanization, we are losing 1% of our arable land every year. So we can't afford to lose more, because solar needs, either land or water. And again, there are some actually not huge, but there are solar energy, which is, I think, floating solar in the, there are floating solar power plants, I'd rather say, in many parts of the world, but this also needs stagnant water. Unfortunately, most of our water is used either for fishing or navigation. So that is why it is again challenging for us. Second, wind. We have done a thorough study on wind, and we found through actually USAID, I think NREL, it's a famous US company. They did this study, and our luck is not very high. We have moderate to low wind energy potential in Bangladesh. Second, you know that we are in the lower basin, so we do not have any hydro prospect. And then you are talking about geothermal. I think you would definitely understand that geothermal is, again, efficiency-wise and cost-wise, is it remains questionable in a sense that, or doubtful in a sense that it needs, number one, thorough study how much geothermal potential I have in our ground. So we have never done this, and which is kind of costly as of now. But obviously, this is an option. The second option that still we think for the future is hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon is something that these are actually emerging. These are not established as of now. And then the last option, which we are also thinking quite intensively, is modular nuclear, which is emerging in the world. Because the wind is quite unstable. I think I saw some people, those who are working in the power sector, they understand it very well. Power needs stability. It needs, frequency stabilization. And then, if there is a huge disruption, then grid would be completely unstable, for which we need to look into the balancing of the production side or production, options. So, if we go for solar or wind, that might, cause instability in our grid. Second is that at night, as of now, solar cannot provide any energy to us. So the highest demand that we need in Bangladesh or around the globe is still at night. So that means we need to find out some other alternatives. So all these things still is not 100%, replaceable to the fossil fuel. So we are trying to focus on energy efficiency and also not focusing high on coal, so that we do not become an emitter country. However, although you have talked about the financing, you see the financing that you are talking about is still sort of like promises. I think you have, I don't know if you have been to COP26. You see, when there is no promise. There is no promise from the emitting countries, which is the reality. In fact, I don't want to name, well, if I name, I don't know, I should not name. I mean, one of very influential person from a very influential country met our Honorable Prime Minister, and in my present, he said that by 2030, that country is going to get rid of all coal-fired power plants. But there was not a single promise in COP26. So that is the dilemma we are facing. And you see, in the global world, when we are talking about renewable energy, if I become 100% renewable tomorrow, it is not going to save the world. When India, China, US, Russia continue the same. You see, Europe has been quite responsible recently, but that did not change the global warming, because we are in the same level. And if we continue the same level, it is not going to help the earth or save the earth, because we need to keep the, we have made a promise to keep it within 1.5. But this is the hard reality that in any case, we have to reduce the emission. So we have talked about financing, we have talked about renewable energy, but we have not promised the reduction. So now, when someone asks us that you have to be responsible, I don't feel good about that. That is for sure. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be on that path, which Bangladesh has not. Bangladesh has produced Mujib Clarity Plan. Bangladesh has adopted or taken the plan of Delta, considering the climate changes. So Bangladesh is moving in its own way, and we hope to get the feedback from others. However, Bangladesh's challenges are sometimes kind of like ignored from the rest of the world. What are the limitations and what are the the immediate challenges? Because we need to provide shelter, we need to provide food, and we need to improve the which our Honorable Prime Minister is always very much keen to improve the livelihood of our citizens. For that, energy is one of the key elements. But we are trying to focus on alternatives as well. And as you look, and as you know, I think by now that Bangladesh has also created a fund, which is the Climate Change Trust Fund. Probably Bangladesh is the first country to create this. Even the US did not create such fund. So I think sincerity and efforts of Bangladesh should be recognized when we are thinking about the climate change issues as well as renewable energy. And I think, sometimes when I encounter many friends of my, coming from development partners, I was a bit blunt, so that is why they think that I'm anti-renewable. Actually, I'm not anti-renewable. I always say that I am probably realistic, and I do not believe in the word renewable. I believe in the word available energy. I think, when you are using sun, you are not renewing anything. The renewable terminology came from physics. In fact, you are not renewing anything. You are using the available energy. So let us think in this way, that I'm going to use my available energy for the sake of my, to sustain my growth. So we are, I think, as a country, we are focusing heavily on that, and we would like to continue that. However, I think your inputs has always been very helpful, and we would love to get the inputs from academia, especially a person like you would be very much helpful. And and Bangladesh, the government has, I think, if you look into the history of the government's policy, the government has always been very open to suggestions as well as changes. That is why Bangladesh could grow a little bit faster, because the bureaucracy in Bangladesh is also quite adaptive rather than many countries in the world. Sometimes highly inefficient, and I always say that inefficiency brings improvement, in a sense that I don't know what is the changes, so the people, those who are interested groups, are changing the laws in their favor. So that is ultimately helping the nation. However, I think I should not, continue on this, because, as I said, I tried to brief, and I think I have spoken too much. And regarding the professional issues, this is something you have to continue. And I can give you one advice: if you can prove your worth, everybody will hire you. So that is the bottom line of every single, I think, profession. Unless you can prove yourself, nobody is going to pay attention to you. And I think as a professional entity, you are showing your excellence and you are showing your professionalism. If you continue to do so, I don't think that you need any extra support. You can stand on your own feet. So thank you again for inviting me today. And thank you, Dr. Roy, for your excellent presentation. And thank you again, Mr. Mamoon, for your, I think, extra fascination towards me, which has basically given me an extra energy. I can, claim to my wife today that I'm really a super special person with your kind words. However, I wish all the best to you, and thanks again giving me the opportunity to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insightful and new perspectives you have opened. And from our point, sir, in the last 3 years, the DBC has organized 65,000 man-hour program, knowledge-based program, to equip our members to be more compatible with the industry in the global dynamic as well as local need. Sir, your advice and your direction will be always another asset for ICMAB family and the members for their development. And at this moment, may I request our treasurer, Mr. Manan Bapari, to give the vote of thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. One, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mamoon, for giving me the floor to say something, a very high voltage program on DBC International webinar on 21st century economy, climate, energy, and social transformation, Bangladesh perspective. We really happy to have Dr. Joyashree Roy, Bangabandhu Chair Professor, as a chief, as a resource person today, and our very beloved resource person, chief guest, Dr. Kaikaus sir, for both of them giving a very good presentation for our audience. I think their insightful presentation and the discussion will help our members to enrich their knowledge. We are very delighted to hear from our today's research person that in future they will in their hand for the development of our chief guest, today's chief guest. Thank you, our honorable SAPA President, Mr. A.K.M. Delwar Hussain sir, for his insightful and very helpful discussion here. And I am also very thankful to our president, Abu Bakr Siddiqui sir, and today's moderator, Dr. Syed Abdullah Mamoon, and DBC chairman, Bakhtiar Alam. Thank you very much for your presence here. We are really grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manan Bapari, FCMA. Now, the last but not least, we are really grateful to all of the members for their passion hearing and participating. Your participation is the ultimate inspiration for us. And I think from today's learning from our resource persons and the directive words from Dr. Ahmed Kaikaus sirs, we definitely move forward and try to create the DBC platform as a policy dialogue and the knowledge-based platform where we will discuss about the global policy, local policies, and the knowledge-based issues so that we can rationalize our position in the industry from the local and the international perspectives. Thank you again. Thank you very much for